Show you how to replace brake lines. So, brake lines are lines that carry brake fluid, which is hydraulic fluid basically. They carry brake fluid to the wheel cylinders from the master cylinder, which is right there. Now the reason they use brake fluid is because brake fluid is a fluid. It's in the name. And that means it cannot be compressed, because fluid cannot be compressed. So instead of the fluid compressing, the wheel cylinders will expand. I hope I'm explaining this correctly, but instead of the fluid compressing, the wheel cylinders will expand. Well, this car has a bad brake line. I will show you, because if we put brake fluid in the master cylinder, let's do that. Yeah, so if you put brake fluid in the master, first of all, let's see, that is kind of empty. That's about half. I did not take the cap off of the brake fluid. But if we put brake fluid in the master cylinder, and just, I think if I leave the lid off, I can show you what happens. See how it's leaking out? And you hear the noise? Well, that noise is coming from the back. And as you can see, that is down, so we're going to put the master cylinder lid back on. I'm going to check underneath here, and as you can see, it's wet. Now, why would it be wet, pray tell? Well, there's a brake line under here, and it's soaked. Right there. That brake line. Let me just show you. Okay, so I have the camera set up. Now I'm going to start the car and step on the brakes. See, is it leaking? Yes, look at that leak. It is leaking, which is not good at all. That means we have a bad brake line. You can see all the fluid around there, and it was leaking. So we have to replace that brake line. So I have to figure out how to get it off. The underside of the rear of the van, as you can see, there is no exhaust. And also we have the spare tire. But as you can see, it is a mess of brake lines going around. So I have to figure out which one it is that's leaking. Okay, I know it's this line, but where does it go to? Which one is this? This keeps going. Hold on. It's right there. It comes and goes around the spare tire. This is the weirdest way I've ever seen this done, and it makes this huge loop and goes down into there. This is a giant brake hose, I believe. So, let's jack the car up and take the wheel off. Okay, I've run into a stop here, and that is, I don't know where to jack this thing up. It does not have a rear differential. You see, on my car, I jack it up with the rear differential. I put the jack on the rear differential and jack it up. But this thing doesn't have a rear differential. I don't know how I'm going to jack this thing up. I mean, I could put jack stands on the axle, but I don't know where to jack it up because it doesn't have a rear differential. Okay, I have it on jack stands, and I also have the jack here, but the jack is a little bit lower than the axle. But it's on jack stands, so I'm going to take the hubcap off and take the wheel off. So before I do that, it turns out this is not the leaky thing. This is the handbrake. Yeah, so this is not the... I wish my camera was... This is not the broken piece. This line right here is. And I can show that. Okay, so just watch that lower line right there. Yeah, so that has to be fixed. this is what we want to look at right here. First of all, we got a rusty brake drum. I like how it has drums, just like my car. But this is what we want to look at. The brake line, which is right there. I have to take that off. And also, look at that. That is in 100% perfect condition right there. This is in perfect condition. There's nothing wrong with this. But yeah, I gotta take the brake line off. Brake line is weird. I did not have to take it off that wheel because I looked at it before I took it off. And the brake line was up there, so I took it off, and of course it broke. But it doesn't matter. But the thing is, it's not attached over there. So I'll move that out of the way. But there is the broken off piece. And I don't know where that goes. I'm trying to figure it out. So I figured this out. 'Cause there it is, right there. I don't know where it goes though. So I have to search for it. Okay, so this is the brake line box, is what I'm going to call it. As you can see, it's protected by a thin rubber pad, and this has the brake lines in it, and these two go to the back. Now I have to figure out which one actually is the one that's broken, and my guess, if looking at it over here, is it's going to be the darker one of the two. You see, the two, the one I'm shaking, this dark one, that's the one it's going to be, because this one, I'll shake the other one. This one is on top, and the darker one is on the bottom. The one that was broken was on the bottom, so that's what I'm going to go with. Okay, so the brake line is off. It's off from over there. Yes, I did it. You can tell it took a really long time, because one drip a second is huge puddle. That is quite a bit. Also, the vast array of tools over here. Now I need to make a new brake line, and to make a new brake line, you need brake line. There's a big roll of brake line right here. I just have to measure it out. I have the piece of brake line measured out. It's right there. But now I need to drill out these fittings because, as you can see, they still have line in them. I have drilled both of them out using the lathe. It's a very good piece of machinery. It's a lathe. It's belt-driven. Very nice. Okay, now this is a tricky part. So what you have to do is you have to put the fittings, onto this brake. Let me just show you. Okay, so the fitting goes on, but then you put the brake, you attach it, and the brake line could easily fall out. That's where you flare it. In fact, that's where this tool comes in. It's a flaring tool. Now, hold on. I gotta move the camera from my button. There we go. As you can see, it is a clamp and a spike with a threaded bar on it. What this does is it presses down and actually bends the brake line. Okay, so now that it is flared, I should tell you something. Now, I didn't do this, but I have done it in the past, and I have to tell you something. Before you flare it, make sure that your piece is on and your piece is actually facing the right direction. Because when I was working on my Morris Minor's front left side brakes, I kept forgetting to put the piece on, and I kept flaring it, and I don't know why I kept forgetting to put the piece on, but I did. And I finally put it on, and I put it on backwards, so I cut the flare off and flared it like 8 times that day. So I just had to mention that. And also, what you want to do now is remove this. You want to remove your flaring tool. I can just remove this. I'm sorry that this video is so long, but this is how to make brake lines. And just go, hold on. And now that this is done, there's our flared piece. I have to take it out of the machine thing. Now removing it from the machine thing. It's not a machine, but I'll call that. It's fairly simple. You just lift that up. there's our flared brake line. It's very nice. Now I have to bend the thing a little bit down so I can put my piece on. Let me put the piece on. And there is our new flared brake line. I think that came out really, really nice. Now I have to do the other side. A quick word from our sponsor, All Over the Place Brake Fluid. Brake fluid gets all over the place when you don't want it to. Now that All Over the Place brake fluid has had a word, my brake line is done. Now what I want to do is put it into the car. Okay, so now the brake line is attached and the brakes are bled. So the tire's back on, hubcap's back on. Let's take the car for a ride. I ran something over already. I'm gonna take the car for a small drive. That brake worked already. This van's brakes are perfect now. As you can see, there is no brake warning light on. Let's go up the hill. Take it for a short test drive. I have touched the brakes. The brakes were pretty good. But that hill I just went up is the brake test hill for the Morris Minor and all my other cars I review, all the other cars that I review. So let's hit the brakes here. It's pretty good. Let's turn the car around. These brakes are perfect now, and if I step on the brakes, no brake warning lights. This is perfect. But if I can get these dogs out of the way. It ran right in front. Okay, here's the hill. We're gonna go down at 10 miles an hour. Stop! These brakes are pretty good. So these, the brakes work now. It only took like a bunch of hours. It took quite a few hours to do. But these brakes are now perfect. Thanks for watching.